Hey everyone, welcome to the V-Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguza, and I am so excited to have a very special guest in the studio with me today. Epic voice guy of the 4-time Emmy-nominated Honest Trailers, the 6th voice of Optimus Prime, and over 20 other Transformer characters, and voices for Marvel, Disney, and many, many more. And the credit list just goes on, but this is a finite amount of time that I have with you. So I am going to let you talk. Welcome, Jon Bailey.
Thank you. It's good to see you again after 100 years.
It is. I said 500. So yes, Jon, we go way back. We go way back at least. What we were just discussing, like 16 years. Gosh,
Yeah,
when
it's
you
been a minute.
first got into voiceover, and I have watched you over the years just become this incredible success through. I mean, we're talking bosses. I mean, this is the VO Boss podcast. We are talking very boss-like strategies and hard work, Jon. I am so happy for all of your successes and so proud of you. My gosh, because I know in the beginning it was a struggle for you. So maybe for the bosses, I don't know anybody that probably doesn't know who you are, but in case they don't, tell us a little bit about how you got into the world of voice acting.
It's good to be back. Thank you for having me back on. It's been a hot second. Yeah, it was all kind of accidental. I had background in performance from, school all the way from, I would say kindergarten through college and public speaking and improv and things like that. In fact, I think that's how we met is through, Rebecca's, Love That
Oh yes,
Improv
that's
VO.
right. Oh my gosh.
I feel like that had something to do with it. It's been so long ago. I don't 100% remember, but I feel like that may have been
Mm-hmm.
how we connected. So that was back in my R&D days, which was 2 years before I even did anything professionally. And like you had said before we started the show, people didn't really take it seriously. I would go in
Yeah.
for my first manager kind of found me on the internet by accident because I'd started YouTube out of boredom, really, and and
Little did you know.
yeah, well, the main reason why I did it was because I saw other people taking old cartoons and dubbing over them and making
Hmm.
funny things out of them. I was like, well, that's what I wanted to do. If they can do it, then why can't I do that? And I had this small following just based off the comedy stuff that I put together involving Transformers and the movie trailer voice, the end of the world guy. And my first manager found me from that video, and then I ran into the problem with him. Like he pitched me to Sony. They said, "We feel like we've heard your voice before in something." I'm like, "Oh, cool." I was like, "Well, I do this little tiny, thing online and called Honest Trailers," and they're like, "Oh, because you're not a real voice actor; you're a YouTube voice actor."
Mm-hmm.
And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "There's a difference," and it's so funny how much has changed in a decade because now that's
Oh
considered a
my.
major platform, and
I
you
and
know.
that is what is uh, so impressive. You know, Jon, you just forged through because I remember that. They're like, "Oh yeah, honest trailers, you're not a real I remember that, and I remember your struggles and your frustration with that. And it's you have what you have like a trillion followers. I mean, literally
Not
I'm
that much
I'm inflating,
exactly.
but you got what, a million, over a
Over
million.
a million, yeah,
Yeah.
combined across all platforms, which is impressive for voice actors who
Yeah.
haven't been the main character in some major popular anime or cartoon or whatever game.
That
I,
I
I'm,
mean,
I'm kind of, I kind of coined the phrase recently where it's like I'm the guy everyone's heard but no one's heard of,
right?
because
There you
I've
go.
so in everything, like my manager, my agent, whoever, or sometimes just directly from the clients, they just throw everything at me,
Mhm.
and I'm just willing to give everything a shot. I know that it can't hurt to try.
Yeah.
So as
Yeah.
long as it doesn't violate my personal, faith, and
Sure.
there's some things I'm just like no,
Uh-huh.
and other things I'm
Uh-huh.
like, well, I'll check it out, but I can't make any promises. And some stuff I'm just like, don't bother me with this stuff because I'm not gonna work on it.
Yeah, so you've worked on such a wide range of projects. I mean, what would you say? I mean, outside of, I know the beginnings were really like getting started and getting getting your feet wet and getting known. What talk about some of the biggest challenges that you've had as a voice actor, because gosh, we all run into what we think are challenges, but I feel like just with the amount of exposure and the amount that you've grown over the years, I mean, your challenges, I feel, must equal almost sometimes your followers, your follower size.
I think my challenges, there's been a lot of them, but I'd say if I
Hmm.
had to narrow it down for an interview with you, I would say that you really need to have some organization to your personal life,
Hmm.
because if you don't have the availability for this job, you're
Hmm.
wasting your time,
Hmm.
because you really can't do anything else. You have to find a way to work around their schedule instead of your own, and be available for them. And that often leads to that thing between voice actors where it's like, why did they get the job instead of me? Well, it might have been because they had a home studio and you
Hmm.
didn't,
Hmm.
and they had immediate availability and you didn't, or they might have decided to move to a town like Los Angeles rather than the middle of
Right.
nowhere, where, well, if you're not, because sometimes it doesn't matter how great you are for the job. It really doesn't. For some reason, some people out here are just too scared of change, and they would rather have a real
Hmm.
human person that can show up at their studio at a
Yes.
specific time and day and record the thing. And unfortunately, you have to
Yeah.
sacrifice a lot. I mean, you have to kind of give up your freedom, so to speak. And I'm thankful that technology has changed, where there's mobile options now, where
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm stuck
Yeah.
in this particular, you know, physical space 24/7.
Yeah. I was just
I
going
can
to
leave.
ask, how much do you actually go in studio now?
I mean,
Still probably more
I
than
would say
me.
it's more than it used to be, only
Yeah.
because I'm booking more.
Hmm.
But I would
Hmm.
still say, 90% of the time it's still here. I'll give you, in fact, a good percentage is just to look at the bookings for this coming week. I have, if I remember right, I have 4 bookings the first week of June, and half of those are in studio and half of those are home studio. So
Hmm.
it sometimes varies, but I would say that the majority of the time, I still feel like the majority of it is here. But certain projects, they really want to work with just the studios that they've already recording all the other
Hmm.
actors at, because they want the quality to sound the same stuff. It makes sense to me. But at the same time, people's home technology gotten so good they don't really need it anymore.
Yeah.
COVID kind of
Yeah.
proved that
Yeah,
to everybody.
exactly. Now, did you have to do any upgrade? I mean, I'm sure you probably had a great studio already, but did you have to do any upgrading to your studio?
I mean, it's still the same booth it always was. It's right there.
There it is.
It's this one I've had for, I would say I've had this one for at least 5 or 6 years. Um,
Hmm.
my Todd Habercorn's misfortune was my fortune. He got this booth for his place, which is not too far from here, and he moved here from West Hollywood, which fit perfectly fine in his old place, but it just happened to be a few inches too big for his
Hmm.
new place.
Hmm.
So he had to sell it for a third of what they normally run. And I'm like, well, I can make payments. And he was cool with that. He just wanted to get rid of it because it takes up so much space and it's so heavy and so bulky and big. It's bigger than I need. It's a 8x4, and I don't recommend anything bigger than 4x4. But the truth is, you really don't have to have a booth that looks like yours. No offense, but it looks
Yeah, yeah,
beautiful on camera.
sure.
That's great.
Yep.
That's one of the main reasons why I had it, because like if I want to make content
Yeah,
and look like a pro, it needs
yeah,
to look like a pro.
yes.
And no
Agreed.
matter how great the audio quality is, and no matter how many studios or clients that you've worked for, when it looks like the inside of a closet, you don't look like a very good pro. And I guarantee people out there, it sounds better in that ugly closet than it does in that fancy studio of yours. Even the guys from Voiceover Body Shop have just, they recommend it. You
Yeah,
don't have to have a whisper room. You can just
yeah,
pad
you
down
don't.
a freaking closet. But I figure that I'm half my career is content creation, half my career has
Well,
been voiceover.
yeah.
So it might as well upgrade that because the opportunity presented itself for such a low price. So
Yeah, no, and I agree with you that, I mean, it, image. I mean, it's how you present yourself really
they
has a
don't
lot
teach
to
you about
do.
how much branding is important when you
Yeah,
do back in our day when we
yeah,
first started.
yeah.
Branding was not part of the education. It was all about the voiceover and the career. They never really talked about like your social media presence
Hmm.
or having a color scheme,
Well, you were
or
developing that, as
we
it
were
as
still
it went.
figuring it
We
out.
were,
Yeah.
we were, and I remember like first time physically meeting you at a VO Peeps meetup, and it was all about. I mean, we were talking about how important it is to start branding, and things were just getting popular on the internet. They were starting. Gosh, we're talking back in our day, you know, when we walked to school 10 miles. No, it
I
was
know, it's
it
funny.
was
That was only 10
honestly.
years ago.
I know, and it's like it's incredible how it's grown, and you mentioned content creation, which Wow. I mean, like I said, you were ahead of your time back in the day on YouTube. And so,
I concur.
yeah, you were ahead of your time. And I like to think of myself as being a little ahead of my time because I was broadcasting from my living room back when people weren't broadcasting, on the internet. My VO Peeps meetups. But, and that being said, we kind of I feel like we're kind of pioneers together, forging our little paths in our business, which is why I'm so excited that we're talking today. And you mentioned content creation. So let's talk a little bit about content creation and what it takes for you on a day-to-day basis, creating the content that you do. Because I've been following you for the longest time, and then I have another question that I'm going to talk about in a minute because you have transformed. Not only have you voiced Transformers, but you have transformed yourself. But let's talk a little bit about content creation and how important it is for bosses today and people, wanting to build a successful business. What does content creation mean for that business?
Well, the one thing I learned, and I have always been a trial and error person.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just, I wish the one thing people always ask me every freaking day, how do I get into voiceover? If I could go back in time and ask that question of myself, I would have said you need to find reliable, trustworthy coaches that are affordable
Mm-hmm.
and just get coaching instead of trying to do this the cheap free way and
Mm-hmm.
learning it all the hard way through trial and error and just free research on the internet. It can be done. I'm proof
Mm-hmm.
that it can be done
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't get any coaching until I'd already been at this job for like
Yeah.
almost a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And I just didn't see the point because unfortunately, a few not so great coaches can ruin it for everybody else. I'm like, I don't hear anything here that I couldn't find on the internet.
Yeah.
And I think I personally have a theory that when we got started, people were gatekeeping the information. I think
Mm-hmm.
people were only telling they were so insecure in their own careers, they were afraid if they share this information, this is going to create more competition, which is going to screw me out of work. And I don't think that this is the kind of career where you should have to worry about that
Yeah.
because it's so freaking huge. There is enough room for everybody in this
Yeah.
job. And if you're
Agreed.
great at the job and you do a good job and you take the time to grow your brand and create content, do all the things that you need to do in order to be able to show what you're capable of, you'll be able to get work. There's no doubt in my mind. But I've always been kind of ahead of my time, but I've been the guy that like I'll do it, and until some huge voice actor does the same exact thing after they've seen me do it,
Of
then all of a
course.
sudden it becomes popular. I was
It's
one of the first voice actors to stream my own video games on Twitch.
Yep.
It didn't really go anywhere, and I was like, you know what? And I told a few other voice actors about it. I said, this is a great idea. Now all of them are actually making a separate income from doing the same thing I was doing, but nobody even showed up for me. I was also one of the few people out there like I should create content about what I do or just do
Mm-hmm.
voice career centered content that's a entertaining slash maybe a little informational um, way to show what I do, just to promote myself. Because the thing, like I started off, the thing that I learned by making content was that your representation there will never represent you as well as you can represent yourself.
Mm.
And when I found out that my agents only just get the auditions, and sometimes they'll have some relationship with the clients and they'll pitch you to somebody, they're never going to know you until you get out there and show them who you are.
Mm.
So take whatever thing that you do and just formulate your content around what you're best at. Whether you're best at creating creatures or you're best at doing impressions, whatever. Impressions won't get you anywhere in a professional voice of a career, but
Yeah.
they're fantastic for content.
Yeah.
That's not the
Yeah.
advice I got 12 years ago. I was
Mm-hmm.
told you'll never get anywhere in this business doing impressions. That's not true because
Yeah.
you can grow a brand and all of a sudden you're so popular,
Absolutely.
clients can't do anything except they can't ignore you
Yeah.
once you have millions of followers and you're like, oh man, we should hire this guy because people will buy our brand or at least consider our product or service or whatever just because this guy has so many people that follow.
Absolutely. I love
So
that. And
growing
that
your
is,
brand and making
yes.
content is a
Mm-hmm.
way for you to represent yourself and not just sit back and sit on your hands and wait for your agents to do it because they're not. Your
Mm-hmm.
your your representation's primary job is to make you look good and let people know what you're booking, even if they didn't book it for you, and get you auditions and opportunities. They're not out there promoting you specifically, showing off what you can. They're not putting out visual audio demos of you doing stuff and working
Yeah.
on things.
Yeah.
And everything is content. Everything.
Now, question for you, because you create so much content, and now that you have so many followers, I would imagine, yes, of course, now you're getting sponsorships, you're getting people who want you to, to talk about their things, because you do have a big follower base. Do your agents have control over the type of content, or, I mean, how careful do you have to be, now creating the
I
content?
think that agents have representatives have to be careful depending on their talent.
Mm-hmm,
I think
mm-hmm.
if their talent is smart and they're wise, obviously they're going to hit me up and say, "You can't post that. You need to take that." And sometimes I just
Yeah,
have to kind of self-regulate.
yeah,
That
yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example of that. There was a project that was coming out, and I thought it would be funny to make a prank video because it's a project that I have been known to work for in the past. So for an April Fool's joke, I created a fake thing for this thing and posted on the internet. And all of a sudden, I had reached a point because my content has gotten so big and my career has grown so much that people were using that as a potential news leak of some
Yeah,
non-disclosure stuff. I'm like, oh crap! I've reached the point where I can't just be
yeah,
regular Joe fan that makes funny stuff for the internet, and then they're like, oh, that. So I had to be way more thoughtful, and because of, like I said, I learned everything the hard way because of some NDA scares and because of
yeah.
some, some reprimands from some agents in the past over the last decade and a half. I've learned like what is okay and what's not, and I'm just always very careful to because it does help. I'm just now. I've been working for Hasbro for 8 years. 8 years I've been doing voices for the same company for the
Mm-hmm.
for the same franchise, and only within the last couple of years did they even know I was working for them.
Well,
Because when you have a massive corporation,
sure. Yep.
they drop down all those little jobs down to other companies that are lower on the pole, so they can just like, look, we're just going to license this brand out to you. You tell us what you're going to make. You do the entire production. We'll approve, and then it's got our official stamp on it. They have no idea who's working for them.
Yeah, yeah.
So when I get out there and I start making content, I'm really starting to push something like Transformers, for example, because I've always been a fan of that,
Yes,
even
yes.
before I worked for
And I
them.
remember that. I do remember that.
Now they're
Mm-hmm.
like paying attention, like, oh, we don't just
Yeah.
have we have a professional voice actor who's been working for us for almost a decade. We have a popular content creator who's also a fan and already makes Transformers content. It makes perfect sense for us to work with him when it comes to our stuff that's
Yeah.
non-voiceover project related. So
Sure.
they'll send me products, or they'll send me
Mm-hmm.
news information or images, digital assets, whatever, to repost because it makes sense for me. And the
Absolutely.
more that I do that, the more that people are associating me with my favorite brands that I already work for, or
Mm-hmm.
it's making other companies go, "Wow, he does a really good job for them." As long as there's no, conflict between clients, maybe we should get them to check out our stuff or whatever. So, for example, for Transformers specifically, I have probably 4 different companies that send me stuff that
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to pay for, that I can make content with, or I can resell or give away. As
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different ideas that you can do. You just have to think outside the box. It's all about thinking outside the box and doing the best you can to represent yourself in a way where your reps don't have to worry about what you make,
Yeah.
because they're afraid that you're like, oh my gosh, you said blah blah blah.
You're not a
So I mean, I even
troublemaker.
had to think about that whenever it came to anything Marvel related, because
Yeah.
when I started booking sound alikes for some of these actors for Marvel, I'm like, does that mean I can't make comedy Marvel content or whatever? Because that might be a spoiler for something that I
Mm-hmm.
don't even
Mm-hmm.
know about because I'm not working on a project. But I feel like anything I'm doing to help, it boils down to this. This is the very, very important part. It boils down to only doing positive things about the clients, brands, products, whatever
Mm.
that you want to work with or that you're a fan of, whatever. Because let's just say you
Love
like
that.
Snickers. If
Mm-hmm.
you like Snickers, you don't want to do negative Snickers things.
Yeah.
You want to show yourself eating a Snickers, show yourself talking about Snickers, making funny things based on Snickers. And eventually, if you get enough followers and enough people are like, this is really funny, or this is really entertaining, and this makes me like Snickers. This makes me want to, support you by getting whatever. Eventually Snickers like, hey, you know what? We'll send you some free Snickers and you can make a video, or they might even send you money and a brand deal.
Yeah.
It really
Yeah.
does. But the important part is to do it positive. Don't do anything negative about
I
a
was
brand that you
just
like.
gonna ask you, yeah, and I was just gonna say, but now there's the other side of the coin where any publicity is good publicity, so sometimes
True,
negative.
but I feel like you're playing it safe and smart if you
I
just stick
agree.
to only thing that say. And another, for example, if something comes out that's not that great, but it's for a company that I like, I will just only highlight the positive parts.
Mm-hmm.
That's not being dishonest. I'm just not highlighting the negative stuff that I didn't care for. I'm just
Sure.
like, well, I really like this. That's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also about growing your brand, about being seen by enough people to be considered like, oh, and it's also about showing how all the things that you do, whether it's your skill set, whether it's your sense of humor, whether it's just your whatever it is that you're doing. It helps them understand, like, this person has all these positive traits that we would like to continue to work with them, or we'd like to start working with
Right.
them.
I like that. I like
The
that a
whole
lot.
Mint Mobile ad from with Ryan Reynolds came because it did not become from my voiceover stuff. It came directly as a result of social media stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of the first people out there doing an impression of Ryan Reynolds, because I've seen people out there doing impressions for decades. They started doing it on YouTube when it was first a brand new thing. People were trying to do it as some kind of bit where it's like, here's this tiny little cartoon picture in the corner, and here's 1 second of me doing this character. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I could do 500 cartoon characters in 3 minutes. And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing, but it's also terrible. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
you're a good voice actor. It just
Mm-hmm.
means you've made clever content that a lot of people watched. But wouldn't it be better, instead of doing those impressions, to just take your skill set and promote yourself in a different way and do something nobody else is doing? So I started looking as like, man, my gosh, all these voices are old. These characters are ridiculously ancient. It's always Mickey Mouse and Kermit the
Mm-hmm.
Frog and stuff
Mm-hmm.
that anybody pretty much could do, because the guys who came up with those characters, they didn't want to stray so far from their own voices. They were
Sure.
just doing whatever. So I was like, you know what? I should just look at who's popular right now. Who's the number one top dogs right now?
Mm-hmm.
So I started looking at the A-listers. I'm like, nobody's doing Chris Hemsworth. Nobody's doing Ryan Reynolds. Nobody's doing. All of a sudden, now everybody's copying that pattern. It's just
Mm-hmm.
one of those many things that like you said, I kind of felt like I was ahead of the curve on.
Oh yeah,
But it made for
absolutely.
great content. And because I was one of the first out there, and because I did such a good job with Ryan Reynolds' voice, and I made positive, funny,
Mm-hmm.
entertaining content, it eventually got the attention of Maximum Effort, who reached out to my agents, said, we really like Jon. We think we have this funny idea. We don't really know what we're going to do yet, but we'd like to fly him to New York. You get to meet Ryan and work with him on a commercial. There's a good paycheck for it involved. Also, good social media, because he's smart enough to know, because Maximum Effort's very good about this. They think like I do. They're like, there's a potential for this stuff. It's all in the internet and how you present this and put this out there.
Yeah,
You can get
absolutely.
more people to see that than you can by throwing this up on a television commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. I love.
So yeah, it just kind of became that formulation of, is it positive? Does it show off my skill set
Mm-hmm.
well? Does it make me look like we should work with this guy and want to work with this brand? Or would this brand be like, this is a unique or entertainer, insert thing here, of a way to promote our product? We'd like to work with this guy more, or continue to work with him. So
Sure.
yeah, it's kind of became the whole mindset. And the main goal was always not to make money from. I make hardly any money from social media, just next to nothing, because the primary goal was not to make money. If I wanted to monetize, there's a very particular set of rules that you have to
Mm-hmm.
follow in order to make money from
Mm-hmm.
social media. My goal was to get more eyeballs on it, get
Mm-hmm.
more
Mm-hmm.
followers,
Mm-hmm.
because at some point you want to be indispensable, you want to be invaluable to people. And like, well, with me, not only do you get this much, 16 years of professional experience, all these credits, all these working with all these great companies or clients or studios or whatever, you also get somebody with over 1 million followers on social media who will promote your project and make
Sure.
content about it for no extra money, just because that's what he already does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that also helps. It's a cycle. It helps me get bigger, which helps me book more jobs, which helps me
Sure.
get bigger, which helps me get more
Absolutely.
jobs. It all works together, and it
Yeah.
does kind of feel like you're working half your time for free. Like you're,
Well,
but
yeah.
that's why you
Yeah.
should do things you enjoy. Make your content something that you enjoy based on things that you like. Just build it around your skill set, around your
Sure,
talent.
sure. I love that. And I love the whole positive, I like the whole positive spin that you put on things, as well as authenticity. To take a moment to talk about authenticity, you have been very authentic. Um, having known you for so many years now, about things like in your personal life, like your transformation, right?
Yeah.
And in your family. And so so let's talk a little bit about what authenticity means as well, in terms of maybe I don't know. I feel as though it's not. It's not a put on to get more followers. I just really identify with you through your stories. I think you and I have a similar story about, let's say, our body change, our health. We've transformed a little bit in that way, and I've seen a lot of posts from you about that, and then and also stuff about just your personal struggles that you've had. Let's talk for a moment about the authenticity and how important that is.
Well, I think you should keep the majority of your personal life offline.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody needs to know
Mm-hmm.
your personal business. But I do feel like when people have been supporting you for so long, they feel an attachment to
Yeah.
your story and
Mm-hmm.
to you, and they want to root for you. They want to be in your corner. They want to see you succeed. Some of them even live vicariously through you. But a lot of people are just looking for inspiration. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking for
Mm-hmm.
somebody else to give them justification for whatever it is that they're going to decide to do. When they see somebody like me give up, it makes them want to give up. When they see somebody like me keeping on and pushing on and just never quitting, it makes them not want to give up. I
Mm-hmm.
inspire other people, and
Mm-hmm.
as a person of faith, that's kind of half the reason why I do what I do, because I feel like it's better to be genuine and be yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because if you have to mask, eventually it'll all fall apart. You won't be able
Yeah.
to keep that up for forever because it's not really you. That's why you hear so many. I mean, Jim Carrey's talked about this a lot because he used to be that guy. He thought he had to be like this all the time. You know,
Yeah.
that was a persona that he created. It was just a different version of himself where he literally was not Jim Carrey. He was whatever character he was portraying that
Sure.
was Jim Carrey. And when he finally dropped the mask and started being himself, he felt better. He was just,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, he's not a super energetic. I mean, he's still funny, but he's not that crazy, energetic, over the top, ridiculous guy all the time. He's
Mm-hmm.
actually just a normal human being who happens to have a very clever mind and sense of humor, et cetera, et cetera. And he talks about all the time about how the word depressed has the words deep rest in it, and how our
Mm.
brains can't keep up with that fake facade. And I know
Sure.
exactly what he's
Yeah.
talking about
Mm-hmm.
because my personal life is not rainbows and Skittles all the
Mm-hmm.
time. I don't
Mm-hmm.
go into great detail about it, but
Right.
people do
Right.
know. They know that I'm on the spectrum. They
Yep.
know that my son is very much on the spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
and he's
Mm-hmm.
had a lot of issues. They know that, my home life has not always been 100% fun and
Yes. Yeah.
games, and they also know that financial struggles and all. I go through the same thing everybody else does.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a really great interview with Larry King, with the actor who played Abed in Community, which is one of my favorite TV shows, and
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
did promos for it, which is how I became a fan. And he was being interviewed, and Larry King's like, give me a luxury that you can't live without." And he's like, "Cup of coffee." He's like, "No, no, no, a luxury." He's like, "A warm pair of socks." He's like, "No, a luxury, like a private plane." He's like, "I work on DuckTales, Larry." It's like people don't get that we're struggling just as much as I don't think until the strike came forward.
Yeah.
This feels like the
Mm-hmm.
first time ever that a strike has actually finally got people
Yes.
to realize we don't make a lot of money. We
Mm-hmm.
are not sitting around floating in
Mm-hmm.
a pool of money, and just everything is fancy and expensive. I literally live from paycheck to paycheck. I don't know how I get from point A to point B except through faith and hard work. That's all
Mm-hmm.
there is to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to look for, like we started off the interview, you have to find things that work with your schedule in order to stay
Sure.
in this career, because you can't just go get a grocery store job or whatever and be able to make it.
Yeah.
You'll only be able
Yeah.
to work when you're free. These clients don't care when you're free. They only care when they're free. So you have to make yourself available until you get to the point where you've reached the career level where, like, no, 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 we'll wait for you. We can reschedule for you. Don't worry. That didn't used to be the case. When
Yeah.
you first start off,
Yeah.
like, next, because they have a million other people that can do what you do.
Absolutely.
And but like I said, I feel like if people are willing to make the sacrifice and put the work in to be in the right place, to be available, to have the right hardware, they've worked on their skill set, they've worked on their brand, they've grown, they've done all this stuff, they've done everything they can do to show people how good they are at the job, how fast they can get it done, reliability, all these different things that are factors. They're going to succeed
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
their because they see that, they can just tell. And part of it is that I am a really hard freaking worker, and I'm very
Mm-hmm.
genuine and open about, I'm just always going and doing stuff. But it's gotten a little better with content creation wise, because while I'm still just being me, I do take the time to, like, look ahead and see, okay, what's coming out,
Sure.
what am I working on, what am I allowed to talk about, what am I not allowed to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
what's trending right now. Can I, since right now I only have this free time on Saturday and that's it, I'm going to make a whole bunch of stuff that week, and then I'm just going to drop it
Sure.
online whenever I have time, rather than. So it's not like I'm making stuff all day long every day. I can't do that. I can't keep working for free, because people don't realize, if they're not sending gifts or if they're donating to your social media, or whatever, you're doing it out of the goodness of your heart on
Yeah.
what little spare free time you've got.
Yeah.
I don't have all day long to stream and
Content
etc.
creation is, I absolutely agree with you, is it's no small feat. It's no
It is a full time job that
yeah,
does not pay.
no small task at all. So
But it does pay off
And
in jobs
in
and
exposure, and
eventually.
yes, absolutely. And that's kind of like, it's interesting that you've given out such wonderful advice. My next question was going to be, what's your best tips for, people starting out in the business? You just gave it to me in that last,
Well, I got a
in
lot more
yeah,
tips than
in
that.
that last, but I loved it because, I just, hard work, and I'm going to say determination, and especially now that the industry has shifted, I mean, and evolved. And I think you, more than anyone, really understand how to roll with the changes and to really
Well,
evolve.
you brought up challenges, and that's
Yeah.
what's the challenge is that this job has become far more public. It's
Yeah.
gotten much bigger. It was already big,
Yeah.
but the career itself is already bigger. And we have all these factors to be concerned about now, like AI replacing jobs like
Sure.
ADR.
Yep. Yep.
And the competition has increased by a ton because now people understand technology's caught up where you can pretty much do this anywhere with a decent internet connection, which makes a big chunk of the industry going to be much tougher. But if you do all those things in conjunction, if you get training from good, reliable coaches that are honest, trustworthy, and affordable, you'll spare yourself years of research and development.
Mm-hmm.
Start creating a brand. Make sure that your brand's this. I mean, I tell this people when I coach, and all of a sudden it's like people realize like all this stuff is just common sense stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Make your profile picture be the
Yeah.
same. Make your bio be the same across all your platforms. Just be consistent with making something. Find free time, bank up a bunch of free stuff, post it when you don't have time because you may not have time to make stuff later on.
Yeah.
But be showing what, like I said, everything is content. If all I have time to do is be in the booth doing my job, then I'm going to record myself in the booth doing the job,
Sure.
add some different audio to it so I don't break
Mm-hmm.
non-disclosure agreement when I'm recording auditions, and just post something else over that and make that into a video to show people like I'm freaking working.
Yeah.
I'm doing this stuff. Here I am in my booth. Or just take a picture, do something, but make content and keep something going out there. Yes, it helps if you stay up with current trends. If you have a particular genre, I'll give you a couple of examples because people probably think that this is just confined to, well, you work in cartoons and movies. It's easy for you because you have all this stuff to. And that's not necessarily true. You never know which horse is going to win the race.
Sure.
I would have thought that Mad Max would have been a great thing to post content about, but it's not doing as well as I thought it would do.
Mm-hmm.
So all the other stuff that I do content for is like, okay, well, I can keep making that, but you just kind of have to keep an eye on it. But you have inspirational stuff. You have creepy pasta, scary stories. There's just so many things that you can do, and it be your brand as
Sure.
long as you keep consistent and keep making something. And in the meantime, you're doing auditions, you're out there, whatever. And as you're growing, you can start adding that to like, oh, well, if you book me, you also get this.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I have a protege. I would love for you to interview her sometime. Her name is Hunter, and she did not know what a voiceover was before she met me, but she did have performance experience. She used to be a haunter in haunts, and let me tell you something. It is harder to be a haunter in a haunt
Mm-hmm.
than it is to do stand-up comedy because you have an infinite amount of time that you're going to be doing this little performance. You've got
Mm-hmm.
about 10 minutes in a haunt. You're in there for hours coming up
Yeah.
with
Yeah. Yeah.
characters, terrifying people, improvising, doing all the makeup and stuff yourself too. So there's on-camera
Yeah.
stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you develop great crazy skill sets that she didn't even know was a valuable skill set. She can create creature sounds that I've never heard a woman do before. I've only heard D. Bradley
That's
Baker
awesome. Well,
do what
I'd love
she's
to.
done.
Yeah.
And like, do you have any idea how special that skill is in this
Mm-hmm.
industry? You need to make content and show people what you can do.
Sure.
And especially if it's something that you can do that they cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, within 3 months of just doing a little voiceover coaching with me, showing her the stuff that I know after 16 years, she was booking work, which proves that you don't have to have 2 years to 16 years to book
Yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. If
Absolutely.
you have the information and you work hard and you supply the stuff that you learn, you can book stuff right away. This industry is easy to get into. It's just a matter of people not being my biggest problem, and I'm going to hurt a lot of people's feelings right now. But my biggest problem is that people come to me with their hands out, and that's all they ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Mm-hmm.
what can I do to blah blah blah? And I tell them, they're like, that doesn't sound like I'm just going to be able to do it without you giving it to me. So I'm like, if you don't want it, you don't. If you're not willing to work for it, then don't
Yeah.
ask. It's
Yeah.
not a job where you can just go get an answer and I give
Exactly.
you a key and you go open the door and you receive the rewards for it. It took 16 years to do that.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be
Absolutely.
condensed down to shorter amount of time. If I, like I said, when you find somebody like me who coaches and I've made all those mistakes already in 16 years time, I've gone through every version of how not to do the job, then finally figured out the right way to do the job. Wouldn't it make sense to invest a little bit of money and save yourself a lot of years to get that information and actually use it and apply it and just work hard at the job? because it's kind of like Shawshank Redemption. All it takes is time and patience.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we go, I do want to talk to you about your transformation. You look amazing.
Yeah, sorry.
I imagine no, I imagine you must feel great. So,
I feel a lot better today. Not so much because I
well,
injured myself.
you hurt your shoulder. I'm sorry. That's right.
But yeah, but again, like I said, everything is content, and I'm like, you know what? A lot of people are already supportive. They want to see me succeed, and I wanted to show them that if you if I can do something, anybody can.
Sure.
If you just put your mind to something and you're just consistent at it, whether it's your health or your career or whatever, if you're just consistent at it, that's all it is. People just fall out of it because they go too hard too fast. Whether it's your physical health or whether it's the career, they think
Yeah.
that okay, all I have to do is this one thing, and then when it doesn't work out in a couple of months, people just quit, or a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. They just don't give it enough time.
Yeah.
You don't get healthy in just a couple of weeks. It took years of back
I
and
know
forth and
that.
bouncing
Yep.
up and down.
Yep.
You and I
Yep.
both know because we both been there.
Yep.
I remember. I remember. You look like a different
Absolutely.
person too.
Yep.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
I've lost an entire person at this point. I'm
Yes.
down 145 pounds.
Woo!
At my biggest,
Congrats.
I was 335. That was around the time when you and I met. I
Yep.
was
Yep.
literally that no neck guy.
Yep.
And my overall goal was 170
But
pounds. So I'm
still is
only
wonderful.
thank
So
you.
yeah.
I've only got 25 pounds left to go.
Good
Um,
for you. I still
and
have some to go too, and it's funny. People are like, "What? No," but I need to continually have that challenge. I
I'll
feel
give you
like
something that
I'm like you in that way.
I'll give everybody something that really helped me, and it's going to seem like a silly thing, but if your health is important to you, and you have people that depend on you and need you to be around,
Mm-hmm.
then you should make it a primary thing. Number one, everything is content. You can film and take pictures of
Yeah,
your progress. Some of
absolutely.
my progress stuff gets more
Yep.
traction than my professional
Mm-hmm.
career stuff does. My
Mine
picture
did
of me
too.
shrinking,
Mm-hmm.
these are just pictures, not even
Yep.
a video.
Yep.
Those pictures had over 3,000 likes, and I don't even have that many followers on Instagram. People want to see you succeed, and it
Yeah.
also inspires them and makes them want to do better for themselves, which is great. So you can literally make that as part of your journey. And I remember incorporating it into my routine. I'm like, you know what? Instead of it feeling like it's a job and then I have to go lose weight and I have to
Yeah.
go hike and I have to go
Yeah.
to, I'll make content while I'm out there. I'll
Mm-hmm.
make videos of me
Mm-hmm.
doing the thing, or I did different celebrities going to the gym, or
Mm-hmm.
working out or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
exercising, and it became where it was fun. And eventually, I'm multitasking at that point.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
making content and I'm
Absolutely.
working out
Yep.
at the same exact time. I'm also finding cool locations while I'm out doing whatever. That like, you know what, this would be a cool place to make a thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many different cool factors involved in just doing things better for yourself. Um, the gym that I got for the backyard, I was like, you know what, this would make great if I want to do gym videos, because they have a very strict policy about making content inside of a gym. So
Yeah.
having a gym
Mm-hmm.
in my backyard makes it a lot easier for me. But it
Sure.
also, I got it from another voice actor. Dave Fenoy got rid of his
Mm-hmm.
old gym because his studio flooded, and he did not feel like putting it back in there once he
There you
replaced the
go.
carpet.
Nice.
So I got a great deal
Oh,
on it,
that's
and
awesome. I didn't realize
it
that
helped
was
me
Dave
network
Fenoy's.
more with,
Yeah.
yeah, it helped
Yeah.
me network with Dave Fenoy,
Yep.
who's also a
Yep.
local to Memphis, which I've
Yep.
only known two or three other voice actors that came from where I came from. So there's so many positive things about everything. Everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
Everything's all
Absolutely.
part of one big giant thing, and it does sometimes feel a little bit like a video game, because it just like, this doesn't feel real, but it's just all the parts working together
Yeah.
and just looking for opportunities. I'll put it to you this way: there's a movie. I hate to bring up Jim Carrey again, but the movie Yes Man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't live quite that strictly to that kind of policy, but I do feel like you should say yes to every opportunity that comes your way, unless you have a very solid, like, there's just no way I can, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
if it feels like there's resistance, then don't do it. But unless there's just something that instantly red flags, I'm just trying to be like, yeah, I'll do my best. I'll give it my best freaking shot, whether it's my health, whether it's my content, whether it's a voiceover job. And I've been shocked at how many times that has worked out for me.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
give it a chance. So many
Great stuff.
people are not confident in themselves. They don't have security in themselves. I don't think people understand the term fake it till you make it. It's talking about
Mm-hmm.
acting. It's literally talking about pretending to be okay and pretending to be fine and acting like you're good, even if you're not good, even if you are nervous. This will change your entire life. And I'm only going to give this one. And this is just an example of what you get when you coach with me, by the way. If you can pretend to be another person when you go into an audition, it completely changes things.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're already acting like you like already got the job, you're going to do a better job
Absolutely.
performing the job.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it comes to in-person auditions or whatever, or social situations or networking situations, you can literally just get comfortable acting like the person who is confident and who is a success until you are. That's what faking it till you
Yep.
make it means.
Absolutely.
People on the spectrum and voice actors and actors and performers, we're all very good at masking. And does that make us an exceptional liars? Probably. All of us are all of us are not like that in our personal lives, but when you're
Yeah.
very good at being when you're very good at pretending to be someone else, you can make that into a viable career, and it works for your content, it works for your overall brand, it works for your auditions, it also works for your booking when you actually get the job. People will like you better when you act like you belong there.
Yeah.
In other words, when you go into a session, don't sit there and go, I'm sorry, let me do that again. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Don't
I'm sorry, I messed
apologize.
up. Hang on, I messed up. Hang on, I'm sorry. You shut your mouth. Just
Mm-hmm.
say, let me try that one more time. I
Mm-hmm.
got a better one in me. Just change your mindset, change the way you
Absolutely.
speak, change the way you act. You're faking it till you make it. Because
Yeah.
eventually you'll start booking those jobs. And it's just, I hate to keep using nerd references, but I am one. It's just like when Harry Potter saw himself do the Spectro Patrono or whatever. He only knew that he could do it because he saw himself do it. And this is
Mm-hmm.
exactly there was a life-changing moment for
Yeah.
me when I went into record Bumblebee for the third time. And it's one of my favorite movies that I've ever worked on. It's my favorite franchise, my two favorite characters that I got to voice. I had no idea who I was working with in that studio. I didn't have a clue. Nobody told me that
Mm.
anybody from the movie was going to be there. The only people that I saw that were famous were some of the other voice actors that were working in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so on the third session, I was like, I wonder who the director of this film is. And I looked it up, and it was the guy I'd been working with for 3 sessions. I didn't even know he was the
Wow.
director of the movie. I thought he was just the engineer at Paramount. And it was like, dude, I was nailing it, not even knowing I should be nervous.
Yeah.
So why
Yeah.
even be nervous? And when I got up, the next chance I got to work with another director, it was Michael freaking Bay.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wasn't even concerned anymore. Everybody was warning me. He's hard to work with. He's difficult. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I worked with Travis Knight. Didn't even know I was working with Travis
Mm-hmm.
Knight. I'm fine. Because I can just act like I belong there, and people will believe it because I'm very being very confident.
Yes.
Even though it's fake confidence, it's still confidence. And eventually you'll start to believe your own
Yeah.
confidence.
It's kind of
That's like I said,
manifesting.
it's faking it
Manifesting
till you
that.
make it.
Yep.
I didn't understand.
Absolutely.
I heard people say that for years and years and years until I realizing it's just faking confidence until you're
Yeah.
actually doing that
Yeah.
job, because you really kind of need to prove to everybody else and yourself that yeah, you can do this.
Yeah.
And once you can do it, once you prove to it, you don't need to worry about it anymore.
And what I
Um,
love is knowing you for so long. Like, I've seen this happen. I've actually watched you become, this incredible success, confident. And I love it. I'm just so, so happy
well, I
for you.
appreciate that.
I
It
really
really is
am.
just
And
about
yeah,
it's really about kind of like learning all the cheat codes.
yeah,
It
yeah.
takes me a little longer than most. I had friends tell me like it takes 10 years to get into cartoons. I booked an anime in 8 and thought I was doing good, but then it was just crickets for another four
Yeah,
years. So you
yeah,
just never really know.
yeah.
But then when I started realizing it really all is all about faking that confidence and just
Mm-hmm.
believing in yourself, even if you don't believe in yourself.
Well,
If you can fake it,
I'm
other people will believe
signing
it.
up to coach. No, I'm signing up to coach with you. But actually, this is a great segue into first of all, how can people follow you? Because if they don't know, they should know, because you're all over the place. And then how can people work with you?
I recently, I won't say it's finished yet because I'm trying to add a couple more pages to it. But I recently overhauled my website thanks to my awesome mentor who also does website design. So if you need a voiceover website, I know somebody.
Awesome.
Um, and I just the contact page. There's a section
Mm-hmm.
on coaching. My rates are all there. I've expanded from when I first started because I didn't. You probably remember this. There was a long time I did not want to coach because I didn't feel like I
Yeah.
had enough
Mm-hmm.
experience for it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was like, I've only been at this 5 years. Even though I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
great, I don't feel like I've got anything to say to anybody brand new because I'm brand new. Now
Mm-hmm.
I don't feel I've got a decade and a half plus 2 years
Sure.
of research and development.
Absolutely.
I've worked for the biggest studios out there. I have gone through every version of how to do this job wrong,
Yep.
just like Thomas Edison inventing the light bulb wrong 99 times. I figured out the right way to do it by doing it wrong so many different ways. So I am really good at cheat. I haven't named it yet, but it's kind of like the gamer's guide to voiceover, with this little cheat code magazine.
Love it.
So yeah, I'm really easy to find. Epic Voice Guy on every major platform, and you can contact me via my website page or any DMs across any of the social media, I'll probably still sling you over to my website because it goes straight to my
Absolutely.
email address. But my coaching rates are ridiculously affordable compared to most people, and you won't have to keep coming back for more coaching sessions unless you want to. Because what I didn't like that when I got started.
Yeah.
I think we had this conversation before. I was very against the overall coaching community because I felt like so much of it was predatory. They were
Mm.
giving some of the same information over and over that you could find on the internet for free. And now they have a website, D. Bradley Baker, God bless his soul, created I want to be a voice
Yep.
actor.com.
Yep.
And now I don't even have to, like, look, if you don't want to pay me, spend a few weeks on this free website. No skin off my teeth. You don't have to pay me a dime. If they're not willing to look at that website for a couple of weeks, because there's a lot of
Oh
information
yeah,
there, then they
absolutely.
don't really want to do
That's
this
a
job.
great
And
resource.
that's my number one go-to thing. But yeah, I coach, and I also do other stuff too. I also, offer, if they want fan stuff, a little bit
Yep.
of everything.
Awesome.
I've tried
Yes, you
to.
do. I remember that. You were doing that back 16 years ago too.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
Yep.
tried to look at the industry and see where the gaps were, and
Mm-hmm,
see
mm-hmm.
where is something missing. It's like, oh, well, here's a merchandise. I started realizing these brands that reached out to me for, like, oh, we realize you make a lot of Transformers content. I was like, well, as a voice actor and having a professional page, I should freaking have a shop page and then call those
Yes,
companies and say, hey,
absolutely.
would you like to advertise for free on my website?
Mm-hmm,
Duh. And I'll
mm-hmm.
three or four. I'm like, yeah, we'll give you some free ads, and we'll even throw you a commission if they buy some stuff through the link. I mean, there's
Perfect.
so
Yep.
much
Yep.
opportunity.
Oh
We just
yeah.
don't. Nobody really takes the time to think. They're just
Yeah.
looking at, I want to be insert job here in the
Well,
voiceover
it's
business, and
it,
they don't think about all this other
it's
stuff.
the business mind too, and
Yeah.
so
So it the simplest way I can put it, because I know your time is valuable too. But the simplest way I can put it is, if you're going to fish because you're starving to death and it's your only option, you have plenty of opportunities to fish, but you have a boat and you have a place to fish. Do you put one hook in the water, or do you put them all in if you have the opportunity to put them all in there? If
mhm.
you have a chance to catch more fish, look for every single chance, every single
Yeah.
opportunity, whether it's a YouTube and a TikTok and a
Yep.
Twitch and a
Yep.
whatever. If you're gamer, game. If you're a reactor, react. But do something, build it around your skill set, make content on every platform out there, look for every opportunity, networking opportunities, voiceover meetups like what
Yeah.
Ann and I used to go to.
Yep.
The coaching sessions from people that are reliable, free website resources. There's a ton out there if you just put in the freaking effort. That's where you guys make me angry. Put in the freaking effort.
This podcast is a resource.
Exactly. There's information
I've
out
been
there
doing
for
this
you for
podcast for
free.
8 years. 8 years weekly. So yeah, I just
And you guys are
celebrated
not
my eighth
paying
year.
for it.
Yeah.
This is free resources that are extremely helpful.
With Jon Bailey. Jon Bailey. Oh my gosh. It has been so wonderful talking. I could talk to. We should have like 15
I
more
mean, I would if
episodes.
I
I
didn't
feel
have
like
a
we could.
game to record today.
I know, right? I could go on and on and on, and I have a
I take that
session I
back.
got to get to myself.
Five sessions.
Yeah.
I forgot one. I just booked another one today. Five
Woo.
sessions, and two out of five are at home. That's not normal though. But
Yeah.
I did want to be fair and
That
honest.
means you got
That's
to
not normally
drive
like
3
this.
out of the 5 too. So that's time involved as well.
Yep.
knowing this
Oh,
area.
that's a really
So,
important one
mhm.
to add on to that. Write down your gas
Yes,
and
right.
your mileage, because all that's tax deduction.
There you go. There you go. Oh my gosh, Jon, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for this. Bosses out there, follow Jon and coach with Jon. I'm telling you, Jon, you were like a fountain. You're a fountain of wisdom and information. And again,
I
thank
keep
you.
telling people they should coach with me. I've got living proof. If you want living proof of how far you can come with a little information from me, if you are properly motivated and you work hard, go to Voxy Ditch on any of the social medias. That's my mentee. I'm
There you
mentoring
go.
her, and look how quickly she has people coming to her asking her for voiceover advice already. Only
Awesome.
being in this job for a few months.
Awesome. Well, Jon, thanks again. Bosses, I'm going to give a great big shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL. You too can network and connect like bosses like Jon and myself. Find out more at IPDTL.com. Everyone, have an amazing week, and we will see you next week. Bye.